In this video, we're going to have a look at how you can save energy in your lab. A great place to start is to understand how energy is used in a typical laboratory. This chart will be fairly standard for most labs, and it shows over a week energy use increasing as you guys come to work, equipment is fired up, experiments are started. There's usually a peak around lunchtime, and then at the end of the day, when people are going home, energy use is reduced. It also shows that at the weekend, there's less work being done and less energy is used. It's really important when we're looking at how to reduce energy that we focus on this thing called the baseload energy. This is the energy that comes from equipment that has to run all the time, or, worryingly, things that are left on unnecessarily throughout the night and at the weekend. Because this energy is being used 24/7 throughout the year, it's responsible for a huge portion of any laboratory's energy use. So that's a really great place to focus. The other thing to consider though is the peak energy profile. How much energy is being used when the lab is at its busiest? And there are things we can do to reduce that as well. But let's start with that base load. Thankfully, there are some really easy ways to reduce this. Things as easy as switching off lights at the end of the day, switching off computers, laptops, and computer screens. We can even look at typical laboratory equipment. Things like centrifuges, for example, can be turned off at night. Water baths should be turned off because leaving them on is like leaving a 50-inch HD TV running. There are things though that we can't easily turn off, like fridges and freezers, but thankfully there are still things we can do to reduce their energy use. Regularly cleaning the filter and the heat exchanger, keeping the seals free of ice to ensure that the doors close properly, removing old samples and keeping an itinerary, and reviewing the set temperature of the unit, because excessive cooling wastes a lot of energy. In fact, the typical -80 freezer uses about as much energy as a regular household, or 20 regular domestic freezers. Now, reducing your lab's peak load isn't as easy as switching things off. This stuff needs to be run for you to do your experiments. But there are still two key tips. First of all, look at your operating conditions and make sure you select energy efficient equipment. So in your lab, could you purchase equipment that has an AEU energy label, an Energy Star label, or is listed on the energy technology list? And can your lab make sure that you switch off any equipment when it's not being used? Fume hubs can use about as much energy as 3.5 households per day. They're possibly the biggest energy users in any lab. Things that we can do to reduce the amount of energy they use is simply to lower the sash as much as possible. When you've finished an experiment, lower the sash. When you're taking a break, lower the sash. And certainly at the end of the day, make sure all the sashes are lowered so the fume hood doesn't have to move as much air and the motors can slow down. So there's just a few tips, but where should you start implementing change in your lab? It's really important that you don't just try and do this alone. To maximize your impact, include the rest of your lab group. So how about at your next lab group meeting, you suggest that you guys come up with your energy plan. And some really great places to start is to agree between you all what equipment can be switched off. Once you know what can be switched off, allocate responsibilities. Nominate an energy champion who can go around and making sure that things are switched off. To help them remember what can and can't be switched off, create posters and stickers. If you want to be really advanced, you could purchase plug timers for things like water baths, centrifuges and heating bricks to make sure that they are off during the night. Why don't you all come together to create an itinerary of stored samples and agree a date that you're going to clean out your -80 freezers and ask maintenance to clean out the filters and the seals and the heat exchanger. So with that, I wish you good luck and make sure you keep checking the cells network for great advice and resources on saving energy in your lab.